Chris, thank you so much for your time here at Radio Days Europe. Firstly, how are you finding the event so far?
It's fascinating. I thought Marianna Spring was a sort of stand-out moment, and I think what she does from a journalistic point of view is incredible. And it's more than anything else, what came through was the care and passion for her stories. And what's been really interesting, because I was at the Youth Summit yesterday, there are lots and lots of themes that overlap. And I think if there's one word I'll take away from all the sessions I've done so far, it's about authenticity. Keep it real. And yes, we're all looking at new platforms, but even on those new platforms, it's about authenticity and storytellings, and connection will out. That's what people relate to. They relate to other human beings.
Yeah, of course. I mean, we should definitely talk about something like AI.
Yes.
But let's go back a bit further. For context, Chris very kindly offered me some advice when I first started in local radio. Now have the pleasure of working for Capital with Global, which is brilliant. So
Great.
Thank you for all of that. Local radio.
Yes.
Sum it up. I know it's a conversation that often people are talking about now. The evolution's been made.
Yep.
How was that moving through the evolution, and what is the positioning now for local radio?
Look, it's been a really challenging 18 months because we've introduced a lot of change, but I think at the heart of what we're trying to do is local is about people, place and connection, and those things are still there as part of BBC Local. The difference now is they're not just there on the radio station, they're also there in the digital space. They're there in terms of news online. They're there on iPlayer. They're also there on Sounds. And so that means, I think, for licence fee payers, when they look at the suite, if you like, of BBC products, they will see their own lives reflected back much more often than they did previously.
I completely agree, and I think that the different mediums and the way that you've now so successfully sort of pivoted, but still feeling very local. Selfishly, a challenging question for you. You talked about the Youth Summit yesterday. As someone that's just got into radio, I was very lucky and just caught the kind of skim. Someone that wants to get into radio now, how are we anticipated to go from community to national? What sort of advice do you have for someone that's like, well, how do I start to be a radio presenter if local opportunity?
Everybody's journey in radio and in broadcasting is different. I've never known two people having the same journey. So mine was, I knocked at my local radio station. I kept knocking on the door. I eventually got in. I did every job there was to do. I did some presenting, and then I realised I was a better producer than I was a presenter, so I moved behind the scenes. And, what we will find is there'll always be a need for storytellers. So I would say the best thing to do if you want to work in media, whether that be in the digital space or in the traditional radio space, never edit yourself, never censor yourself. Whatever opportunity is there, grab it with both hands, because you don't know where it will lead or who you might meet and the connection you might make.
Really interesting, and I think definitely actually to know that those opportunities are still there, which leads me on to women in radio.
Yep.
Obviously both being sat here. Do you know what? It's crazy. It's often, when I'm interviewing women, it's a topic that often comes up with yourself. There's so much power and success behind you. It's not even something I necessarily thought about as a talking point. Is it a challenge that you face being a woman?
I think when I started working in radio, there were very few women. I think that has changed over the years, but it's changed in lots of other areas of society as well. And I think what we have to keep doing is we have to keep pushing. But I want a world where everybody has a chance, whatever their gender, whatever their background, whatever their class, whatever their sexuality, whatever their ethnicity. And I want radio stations that are actually representative of the UK as a whole, because I think actually that will give us a richer and more diverse tapestry of stories to draw on.
Yeah, you talk about creating a sense of community, and actually how important is it to reflect who we are through that. Quickly, the future of radio. Is AI even on your radar?
Of course it is. The session I've just been doing, one of the clips I played was of Rob Burrow, the rugby league player who unfortunately now has motor neuron disease. He did a series called Seven for BBC Local, where he interviewed famous athletes, including Wayne Rooney, Rio Ferdinand. But what was amazing, they wanted to talk to him because it was Rob Burrows. It was actually the fact that AI technology was available to him. He was able to converse and able to hold that conversation along with his wife Lindsay. So, AI is there, but I don't think what AI will necessarily do is completely take away from human beings. We shouldn't be frightened of it. We should embrace it. And there's a book I was reading last year. It was a biography of Elon Musk, and he talks about the complexity of humans and how there are certain things we will need to use AI for, but there are lots of other things where you always need a human being because they've got empathy, they have other skills. Just putting in, for example, a window, it's much easier to use 2 thumbs than to program an AI machine.
Chris, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.